Greetings everyone and welcome back to Sanford Heart. We're a YouTube channel that strives to bring you the stories of Sanford through the eyes of the people that make up Sanford's heart. And when you think of Sanford's heart, certainly somebody that comes to mind right off the bat is Teresa Quintana. We're very privileged to be here with her today. She's taken time out of her busy schedule to be with us here for a few minutes. Teresa is the co-founder of Sanford Strong, and we've all, I'm sure, seen her posts, and we've seen the amount of activity that she's done, the amount of good things that have happened as a direct result of Teresa's involvement in Sanford Strong. Teresa's a dedicated and tireless worker, we know that, and she's a real asset to our community. So once again,
Thank you.
Welcome, Teresa.
Thanks for the kind words.
It's great to have you here. Now that we're about 10 months, I think, almost to the day out from the flood, can you tell us how it still affects you on a daily basis?
Well, there's two different aspects to that. From a community basis, we meet with the long-term recovery group in Dolores every week, and I think we're going over about 55 different cases of people that are still in various flood recovery stages. And so at that meeting every week, that's where we either submit new cases that we learn about, or we check on the progress of cases that have been ongoing. So that's one of the most rewarding parts of my week, is when we have that meeting and we can celebrate some wins, because usually we hear of, okay, this person's fully recovered now, and that's a great feeling. That's what makes all of the time and energy that we've put into this, that's what makes it worth it. From a more personal standpoint, it still hurts really bad for me, and I didn't really expect that, nearly a year later, I still have a hard time when I drive downtown, which is pretty often, and whenever I drive over the empty lakes or see the lake empty, it really upsets me. And it's really interesting to me, and I get this feedback from a lot of people in the community, how you can just be so emotionally tied to a body of water. The lakes were such a big part of our culture and our childhoods. So it's really still difficult to have them gone. So.
And as we've talked about before, people are at different stages of the emotional recovery process. And I talk to other people that they're still triggered by certain things that occur. So when you meet as the Sanford Strong is actually now a 501(c), is that correct?
We're a nonprofit, and we're currently awaiting our 501(c)(3 from the federal government, and they move about as fast as a dam rebuild takes.
So when you start, can you tell us how the Sanford Strong came about? And
yeah, just the night that we were evacuated, Emily and I were up late worrying and talking. Emily Rickards, yep. And Emily decided to start a Facebook group just so people would have one place to go for communication.
And did you ever have any idea that it would end up like this?
No, not even close. I mean, at that point, we didn't even know what the destruction was. I mean, no, we had no clue.
And it's ballooned now into how many followers or members?
We have about 12,000 members.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking you probably had no idea that would ever happen to that scale and that you'd become a nonprofit, did you?
No, we didn't, but we're really grateful for it. It's an incredibly useful tool that we have for communicating in the community, whether it's somebody that needs help, whether it's somebody that has an idea, or, there's just a lot of different really positive tools that group is used for, and I'm really proud of it to be such a positive place. We work really hard to keep it that way. But yeah, we didn't have any clue what we were getting into.
It seems like a lot of work. I mean, on a daily basis, is it a lot of work and upkeep and looking at posts and
Yeah, it can be. It's not like it was, you know, in the beginning months anymore, but yeah, it can be a lot of work. Especially keeping it, you know, a positive place.
It must be incredibly gratifying for you.
Yeah.
It seems to most of us like you have limitless energy. And it's overwhelming to me sometimes when I see the things you're doing, and really others as well, in Sanford Strong and just all the volunteers. Where do you get your energy, and what fuels that energy, would you say?
Well, first of all, through God and coffee, all things are possible. There's a lot of different things that go into it. I'm self-employed, so I have a lot of control over my schedule. I think it's easier for me because I'm not a person that's committed to be in any one place from 9 to 5 or anything like that. So that's very helpful. The second thing is I do have a lot of systems in place for keeping information organized, and I'm very stringent about my schedule. So I'm just very mindful of my schedule and making sure that I have an adequate amount of time to dedicate to different sorts of projects. And maybe not so much in the beginning, but at this point, I mean, I will say no to a project, or maybe find somebody that's better suited to spearhead a project if I, you know, just don't have the time for it. But in addition,
so you're pretty disciplined about your...
I'm very disciplined. But in addition to that, like at home, I have a really strong support system at home. I've got some really wonderful friends that make up a support system. And then just Sanford Strong as a community, and by that I don't just mean like me and Emily and Martina or Dolores, it's really the whole community. That really, if I need help with something, like people do want to get involved, and it makes people feel good to get involved and to help. So,
and I want to point out to our viewers, that's one of the areas we're going to focus on, is not just people who are out in the forefront, but literally, I guess, the heart, but also the backbone of Sanford, because there's tons of people that we can put on here that really make the whole machine work and move forward, and we will get to those people. Just give us some time.
There's a lot of them.
and there's some marvelous stories to be told. I know there are, and certainly if you have any of those stories, let me know. Comment on the YouTube channel or send me an email, and because we want to hear those stories, and that's really the nitty-gritty of what makes Sanford such an incredible place. And so send them along if you can. Teresa, you told me that you were away, you were raised in Sanford, correct? And then you were away for like 13 years, I think.
Yes.
And when during that process, you developed this dream of having a lake house and having a life change, I think, or something like that. Can you tell us how that journey away has affected your relationship to Sanford now?
Yeah. So when I first left, I moved down to the Keys when I was only 19 years old. And I thought the coolest thing in the world was to be anywhere than Sanford or anywhere than Michigan. And that journey ended up taking me to California for a couple years, and I lived in Texas for a couple years. And towards the end of it, you know, as I started growing up, because when you're 19, I mean, you really aren't sure who you are and you have a lot of evolving to do as a person. But after I grew up and I had my son, I just realized that I loved my experiences in other places. It helped me to become really cultured and to just see how different other people are and how different other states are and things like that. But there was really no place like home as far as where I wanted to raise my son. And I wanted him to have the quality childhood that I had. And in addition to that, you know, on a personal level, I have fantastic parents. And I would have done my son a major disservice by not being in a place where he could have a really close relationship with his grandma and grandpa. But yeah, essentially it's just, there was no place like home at the end, so. Right, yeah, you know, as you evolve and kind of figure out who you are, It was just one of those things where I guess I didn't feel content or quite like I belonged permanently in any of those places. And I had some concerns about coming home. I was like, how am I ever going to drive in the snow again? I forgot how to drive in weather. And how am I ever going to survive a winter again? And, just things like that. But I kind of make a joke and I say, well, my body is cold here, but my heart is warm.
Yeah, it is.
And I can always dress in layers.
Right. You had mentioned your childhood and you wanted your son to come back and experience a relationship with his grandparents. Do you have special memories of your childhood in terms of your peer relations and what it was like in Sanford growing up?
Yep, all of it. There were, obviously some hard times in high school, and there's always, social things like that you go through as a child. But for the most part, it was just, we were outside all the time, whether we were jumping off my best friend's dock over on Lakeview Drive, riding our bikes to IGA on the rail trail, or, playing basketball in the parks. We were just always able to be outside. And it's a really tight-knit community because we're so small. Sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse, but for the most part, it's a blessing just because everybody knows everybody here. So
your heart truly is in Sanford.
Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere else. Maybe eventually in the winter. Probably around this time last year was when, I started looking for properties and stuff on the lake, because that really is where I want to be. That really was always where I wanted to be. And then this happened, and now we are years out from being made whole again. I feel like that lake returning is just going to be the final puzzle piece.
How many years do you think it is?
They're estimating 5 to 6, but none of us have ever been through this before. And I've researched, so there's other communities that this has happened in. I feel like the Sanford and Edenville, the whole mid-Michigan area, got a lot more press nationally than some of these other places. So I've looked into how other communities handled it before. And 6 years or so is a pretty consistent number.
What are your hopes and dreams for Sanford?
I have a lot of faith that it's going to come back better than it ever was, or better than it ever would have been. I have a lot of faith in some of the things that are taking place in downtown. I think with a lot of the green space that's being developed as a result of like the FEMA hazard mitigation purchases and things like that. So we're going to have just extra green space in parks. And again, like just outdoor things for people to do. And I think that that's going to be great. And then again, with the lakes coming back, that will be like just the final puzzle piece, but that's the thing that's going to take the longest time.
You told me before that FEMA had mentioned to you how much volunteer work had been contributed towards our local portion of contributions or matching. And it's striking really, the amount of enthusiasm and dedication of folks. How do you account for that? What do you think is special?
They told Dolores that, because Dolores, she's the person that works with FEMA. And we were surprised to hear it, but really not. And I think it's just that small town dynamic. I think part of it is, most of these people that were affected are our friends and peers and neighbors and family members. And so obviously you want to get in there and you want to help your people, but there were a lot of strangers helping strangers too. But I really think that effort, it's just the culture of a small town USA community.
Interesting. Because I had not lived in a town like this before, maybe not this small, and it was just, it's been striking to me to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, do you mind sharing with us what's in the future for Teresa Quintana?
Quintana.
Sorry.
It's okay. Nobody says it right. I don't really know. I just kind of want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Just in conclusion, just looking back, can you sum up the whole experience of the past year?
It's all kind of a blur, honestly. There's just been so many moving parts and so many different projects and so many things that it's really hard to summarize. But I guess the best way I can summarize it is just I think we've made a lot of progress, and I'm really proud of our community, because if it wasn't for thousands and thousands of people getting together just to help people clean up, to help people rebuild, I mean, it's just been remarkable. And I just think that our progress is a lot further along than it would have been if we hadn't had that communication tool.
Well, I want to thank Teresa for being with us here today. If you like the channel, let us know that. And I think there's a like and subscribe button at the bottom of the page. There's also a place to make comments. Our email address is sanfordheart21@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you folks, and hope you enjoyed the channel.